I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
Stephanie White was furious about the Indiana Fever's loss to the Liberty last night. She called out the referees in front of everyone, saying, "What we've all been thinking is that the Fever were robbed a minus 31 free throw discrepancy over recent games, but here's the thing, they were robbed a blatant no call on Caitlin Clark in the final seconds that could have tied the game." White didn't hold back questioning whether the WNBA system even works anymore. In this video, we'll share the highlights, replays, and all the receipts against these WNBA referees. Please share your thoughts about these terrible referees in the comments section below.
Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time on her arm. It's cheating, it's plain as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. But I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
Picture the Fever going up against the reigning champions and trading baskets like Aaliyah and the heavyweight champions. Boston couldn't be stopped. They scored 27 points and grabbed 13 boards. Lexi Hall made a big difference in her first game of the season by scoring 15 points when her team needed them the most. This was Indiana's championship level basketball. While the Liberty got call after call, Indiana's players were sent to the free throw line every time they drove to the basket, but the whistles weren't going off when they should have. The numbers don't lie. New York got to the free throw line 32 times, while Indiana only got 15 attempts. That's more than twice as many chances for the Liberty, and in a game decided by 2 points, that's a huge difference. You can't win games when the other team gets twice as many chances from the charity. Stripe.
A 3 off target, batted a lot, bodies on the floor. Clark 1-on-3 trying to split the defense, goes into traffic and reverses it off the glass. And a fearless Caitlin Clark here.
Watch how she uses her body to shield the defender. That's just beautifully done by Caitlin Clark.
What really showed how good the Fever were, they beat the Liberty by 17 points in the third quarter. 17 points against the defending champions, that's total dominance. When given a fair chance, the Fever showed they could play with the league's best team. Caitlin Clark was fighting through double teams, physical play, and constant pressure, and she still scored 18 points and had 10 assists. Every drive to the basket was met with contact, but the refs didn't blow their whistles when Clark was fouled. Meanwhile, the Liberty players were getting calls for much lighter contact.
No pass shot possessions for New York. Clark, step back 3. Oh, she hit it and draws the foul. Welcome back, Caitlin Clark.
The Fever were ahead by 12 points in the fourth quarter and thought they had the game won until the referees took over. The Liberty made a comeback by playing great basketball and getting a string of calls that went their way, which changed the Liberacion's whole game. Jonquel Jones scored 14 points for New York in the last quarter. She was aggressively charging the basket and getting calls that the Fever players weren't getting. It was clear to everyone watching the difference.
Our third quarter was really, really good. Obviously, we won the quarter by 17 points. That's what put us in a position to have a chance to win. So essentially, we really played one good quarter of basketball and lost to the defending champions by 2. So I guess that's positive. A lot of ways to continue to.
The Fever had shown they could beat the Liberty, so it wasn't about basketball skills anymore. It was about getting a fair chance from the officials. Indiana was playing championship-level basketball, but they were up against biased officials. Every possession, every call, and the refs were about to decide this game in the last seconds in the most controversial way possible. Here's what went wrong, and you'll see how they stole the game from the Indiana Fever, who were down by 2 points with 2.9 seconds left on the clock. Caitlin Clark gets the ball at the exact moment that the game should have been tied. This was their chance. Clark gets the ball in the air when everything is at stake. You can see on the replay that Natasha Cloud makes clear contact with Clark several times before, during, and after the play. It's the kind of foul that would be called 100 times in a normal game, but the officials don't blow the whistle. They just let it go.
A 3 off target, batted along, bodies on the floor. Clark 1-on-3 trying to split the defense, goes into traffic and reverses it off the glass. And a fearless Caitlin Clark here.
Watch how she uses her body to shield the defender. That's just beautifully done by Caitlin Clark.
There was clear impact, so Clark should have been sent to the free throw line for 2 shots. They missed 2 free throws that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime. The Fever's record dropped to 2 wins for the season. Twice lost. When Clark gets hit but the call isn't made, the game is over. That's how their season changes for the worse.
The refs messed up 3 calls in the last 3 possessions of this game. First, DeWanna Bonner gets absolutely destroyed, no call.
That wasn't the only debatable call in the last few seconds though. 2 plays before that missed call on Clark, the refs missed a clear foul on Dana Bonner. Bonner had a wide open layup, but got hit hard, missing the shot because of the contact. There was no whistle, and the foul went uncalled. The Fever lost another chance to score, which would have put them ahead after that misseed call. A fake foul is called on Sabrina Ionescu by the refs, even though Lexi Hall was in full defensive position and wasn't reaching or pulling. She was playing perfect defense.
And then Sabrina Ionescu makes the contact.
But when Banner gets hit, those free throws from Ionescu become the game-winning points that shouldn't have existed. She makes both shots and puts the Liberty ahead with points that came from a call that never should have happened. Meanwhile, the Fever aren't getting called for much more obvious contact on the other end.
And this is the worst one. There's 1 foul. There's 2 fouls. Then she holds her, watch this, with her shoulder and on her arm when she follows through and then fouls her for the 4th time on her arm. It's cheating. It's plain as day. The haters will say, she got locked up. Yeah, if you're fouling the whole game. But I'm going through this entire game. The corrupt refs gave this game to New York and they still barely won.
There were 3 important calls in the last few seconds that went against the Fever and changed the outcome of the game. First, there was no call on Bonner's foul, which could have given Indiana the lead. Then, there was a phantom call on Hole, which gave the Liberty free throws and the lead. Finally, there was no call on Clark's drive, which could have tied the game. This is the proof that everyone is talking about. Clear bias cost Indiana the game. You can't have this much inconsistent officiating in the last few seconds of a close game. The Fever earned the right to have this game decided by basketball, not by refs who didn't blow their whistles when Indiana needed them the most.
Coach, you talked about the way that the game has been officiated for you guys. How did you see the foul that was not called, or a lack of foul, on the Bonner play, and then follow it up by Lexi Hall getting called for the foul?
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. DB's was crazy. And then Lexi's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path. It is what it is. We have to be able to play through it. But at the same time, I feel like it's really disrespectful.
That coach has never been this angry, and Stephanie White had every reason to be after what happened to her team. White knows her team was robbed when she walks into that press conference, and she's not going to keep quiet about it. She didn't even have to say a word because her face showed how she felt.
Disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
She drops the bombshell that everyone needed to hear. Over the last few games, they've attempted 31 fewer free throws than their opponents. White makes it clear that this isn't just one bad call. It's a pattern of bad calls that's been going on for weeks. White says that the no call on Clark in the last seconds was exactly what she thought it was. I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. This is coach speak for absolutely ridiculous. White doesn't use words like that unless there is a major problem with the way the games are being called.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim.
But White really criticizes the WNBA system when she directly challenges the league's grievance process, saying, "There's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate our grievances, but she doesn't think the system works." She's basically saying that the league doesn't care when teams complain about bad officiating. The system is broken. This isn't just a frustrated coach venting. White is protecting her players from unfair treatment that happens all the time. White makes it clear how hard her team has been trying to get to the basket. We're attacking the rim. It was said that the Fever should be getting more calls, not fewer, because they play the kind of basketball that usually gets them called for fouls.
Steph, given your perspective on the first 4 games, is that something you've already tried to be proactive with the league, or you'll reach out to them and let your feelings known?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate, our grievances, so to speak. I don't know that I ever feel like the system works. We're not looking for a change. We're just looking for consistency. I felt like the second half of Atlanta, at least at our place, was at least consistent. Right, and that's the thing that we're looking for.
The way White felt shows how bad this problem is. This isn't just about one game. It's about respect. Her team isn't getting the respect they deserve from the refs. Every night, the Fever have a tough time because the refs treat them differently than other teams. The Fever have been dealing with officiating bias all season. Most coaches don't say anything about it because they're afraid of getting fined. But White doesn't care about the consequences. She'll protect her players and call out the league when she has to. This press conference will be remembered as the time someone finally said what needed to be said. White made the WNBA aware that the officiating bias against the Fever has to stop. Her team deserves better. What a surprise. Caitlin Clark deserves better, and so do the people who watch. Games should be decided by basketball, not by refs who don't blow their whistles when Indiana gets fouled. This breakup could be just what the team needed to get motivated and win the title. Clark said, "After the loss, we are 2 possessions away from being 4-0. Just think about that for a second. This team is only 2 plays away from being perfect right now.
On the plus side, you could say you're 2 possessions away from being 4-0 in these games. Do you look at it from both sides? Like, here are the positives of this, and then here are the things we really want to work on.
Yeah, and that's probably what's frustrating about it, too, is like we are 2 possessions from being 4-0, but there was so many little areas in this game that we could have improved. Like our defense, again, to start the game was poor. And we got to find a way to come out with more energy, be able to guard. And yes, they present a very tough challenge when all 5 of them can make threes and, they're setting inverted ball screens, things like that. It's a challenge, but you got to find a way to do it.
The bad luck is happening early in the season, when there's still time to learn and grow. She said, "Feels like every game we've really only put 2 quarters together." Clark knows the team is still getting used to each other. That is the kind of honest review that shows this group knows what they need to do.
Consistency is definitely where we can be a lot better. It feels like every game we've really only put 2 quarters together. We're kind of waiting for that, 4 quarters of really good basketball, and I think it's going to be a learning curve. This group is new. We haven't played a ton together, so but that's what's going to have to happen if we want to beat the really good teams in this league, is you got to find a way to put together 4 really good quarters. There's going to be runs. That's basketball. They're going to go on their runs. We got to be able to find a way to stop them and then respond. So I think that's an area we can certainly improve in.
Aaliyah Boston's dominant performance against the defending champions showed that this team has more than just Clark. Clark scored 27 points and grabbed 13 rebounds. But Boston also showed that she can score when Clark isn't feeling well. Championship teams need that kind of depth.
I think for us, we just have to make sure that we're playing consistent throughout the whole game. It's pretty easy to just say that our, not getting over the hump in that 4th quarter, but I think our start, in in that second quarter, they outscored us by a bit. So we have to make sure that our start is better so that when we do get to the fourth quarter, it doesn't have to be this close. But I mean, it was competitive basketball. We dug ourselves in a hole to start. We got back in it, tied the game up. Sometimes the ball just doesn't roll your way, but I think if we prioritize the way we start, it's going to be better for us in that fourth quarter.
That Lexi Hall stepped up in her first start of the season shows how deep championship teams need to be. With 15 points, Hall proved she belongs in the starting lineup and gave Stephanie White another weapon. When players can step up like that, the whole team gets better. Even though Clark had trouble shooting, the team was still able to beat the reigning champions. In the fourth quarter, the Fever led by 12 points. In the third quarter, they scored 17 points more than New York. This team can beat anyone if they play well for 4 quarters. This early season fire is making a team that won't give up on anyone or anything. Being mentally tough when the refs cheat in a close game builds character. Even when things go wrong, the Fever now know they can play with the best team in the game.
How do you accept officiating without letting it, I guess, affect how you go about and execute the rest of the game?
Yeah, when it comes to accepting, it's like we don't really have a choice because they're going to call what they want to call. And so for us, I mean, even for me, I miss some of those easy around the rim. I think for me, I have to put them in the rim for just post talk. And we just have to finish through contact. If we don't get it, we don't get it, but we have to give ourselves the best opportunity to get that basket.
The controversy is bringing fans together and creating a us versus the world mentality that championship teams thrive on. When everyone thinks the league is against them, it makes the team stronger. Players fight harder for each other. Coaches become more protective, and fans become louder and more supportive. Every championship team faces problems along the way. The Fever are getting theirs out of the way early in the season instead of waiting for the playoffs. They're learning how to deal with pressure and how to respond when calls don't go their way. By the time the playoffs come around, this team will have been through a lot and will be ready for anything the league throws at them. These early games teach them lessons that will help them when titles are at stake.
We'll have a couple of days to get some work in practice, and we'll use that as an opportunity to look at some of those things. We've got to continue to do what got us here. We got to move the ball. We've got to hit singles, not make home run plays. You know, we have a tendency to try to make the home run play all the time, the dagger or the play that gets the momentum going, or, you know, and it doesn't need to be that way. We can make the easy plays. So those were more of the communications, keeping our intensity level, you know, on both ends of the floor. You can't relax. I mean, the margin for error when you're talking about playing championship caliber teams is so small.
It doesn't matter how unfair the refs are. The Indiana Fever are building something special, and unfair refs will not stop them. You saw what happened when they got mad. You saw Aaliyah Boston dominate. You saw Lexi Hall step up. You saw Caitlin Clark fight through everything they threw at her in the last game against Atlanta. You saw Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and even Darius Dantis make huge contributions. The controversy has brought fans and players together, which is exactly what title teams need. Every bad call makes them stronger, and every missed whistle makes them hungrier. Get ready for 2025. The Fever are about to show everyone what happens when you add fuel to a fire. Tell us what you think of these awful refs below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on all alerts to never miss a video. Click the movie to watch it, and we'll see you next time.